Adaora Nwankwo stepped into Prestige Couture, the high-end boutique nestled in the heart of Victoria Island, Lagos. The morning sun glimmered against the glass walls, but for Adaora, every step she took inside was heavy with exhaustion. Her tattered black shoes, polished but old, contrasted against the sparkling marble floors. She wore simple Ankara dresses, while the other salesgirls flaunted designer labels and expensive wigs. For months, Adaora had endured humiliation here. Stella, the boutique manager, was merciless. She never let Adaora attend to wealthy customers. Instead, she sent her on errands fetching coffee, picking up dry cleaning, and sweeping storerooms. Whenever Adaora made a sale, Stella cleverly diverted the commission to herself. "Be grateful," Stella would sneer. "At least you're inside a place like this. Girls like you don't belong here." The senior staff echoed her cruelty, laughing at Adaora's humble appearance. They snatched her clients, mocked her clothes, and called her the charity case. But Adaora swallowed her pain. She had a mother and younger siblings to support in Ajah. Every insult was a weight she carried in silence because she had no choice. That morning, as Adaora arranged silk dresses near the entrance, the boutique doors swung open. An elderly man shuffled in, his sandals worn thin, his caftan faded, and his gray hair wild and unkempt. The other workers recoiled in disgust. Stella marched forward, her heels clicking sharply. "Baba, this is not Balogun Market. This is Prestige Couture. Please carry your poverty elsewhere." The old man smiled gently. "I only want to look." "Look with what?" One staff laughed. "Do you have millions to spend here?" Adora's heart squeezed. She had seen the eyes of rejection before her own reflected in the mirror every night. She stepped forward, ignoring the sneers. "Baba, would you like some water?" she asked softly. The old man's eyes twinkled. "Thank you, my daughter. That would be nice." Adaora fetched a cold bottle of water and guided him to a seat. She smiled at him, her presence warm and genuine. "Take your time. Let me know if you need anything." He sipped slowly, watching her with gratitude. "Good things happen to good people," he whispered. "I see it in you." Adaora chuckled shyly. "Thank you, Baba." Then the old man did something no one expected. "My child, help me select 10 of your most beautiful outfits, suits, silk shirts, shoes, everything top class." The room froze. Adaora stared. 10 outfits? "Yes," he smiled. "I want the best." Adaora hesitated, but something in his eyes told her to believe him. She began selecting the finest clothes, matching suits with silk ties, arranging Italian shoes. The other staff whispered mockingly, "She's wasting her time. Does she think this Alhaji is Dangote?" An hour later, Adaora presented the collection. "Baba, these will look perfect on you." The old man clapped his hands. "I'll take them all." The total cost, 35 million. The boutique was silent. Stella folded her arms, lips curled in amusement. Then the old man patted his pockets and chuckled. "Ah, I don't have money on me." The boutique erupted in laughter. Stella sneered. "I knew it. You thought this beggar could buy even a button?" Adaora's face burned with shame, but she turned to the old man. "Baba, you don't have money?" "I do," he said softly, "but it is with my grandson. He is very rich." Stella laughed louder. "Oh, his grandson is rich. Girls, did you hear that? Someone signed this Nollywood script." Adaora smiled faintly, ignoring them. She pressed N2000 into his hands. "At least take this for transport home." The old man stared at her, his hands trembling. "You are rare, my daughter." Stella's eyes narrowed. "You're a fool, Adaora, and now you're fired. Leave this boutique now." Adaora swallowed hard. With her dignity intact, she picked up her handbag and stepped into the harsh Lagos sun. She had nothing left, but somehow her heart was still at peace. Little did she know, her life was about to change forever. As Adaora walked through the busy streets of Victoria Island, the weight of her dismissal crushed her shoulders. But she refused to cry. She had just enough money for her transport back to Ajah, that was all. She remembered the old man's kind eyes, his soft words. Good things happen to good people. She wanted to believe that, but life had taught her otherwise. Meanwhile, the old man stepped out of the boutique with a knowing smile. He raised his hand and waved down a sleek black SUV that had been discreetly waiting at a distance. The driver quickly stepped out, bowing. "Chief Obinna Okeke, is everything all right, sir?" Chief Obinna nodded. "Take me home. I've seen what I needed to see." They drove through the bustling streets of Lagos, past the third mainland bridge, until they reached the imposing gates of Okeke Mansion in Ikoyi. The security men snapped to attention and opened the grand black gates, revealing a sprawling estate of manicured lawns, sparkling fountains, and a mansion that looked like it belonged to royalty. Inside, seated in his private study, was Chinedu Okeke, Chief Obinna's only grandson, young, tall, and impeccably dressed in a fitted navy blue suit. At just 35, he was the CEO of Okeke Holdings, the conglomerate that owned Prestige Couture and dozens of other luxury businesses across Africa. "Grandpa!" Chinedu stood up, his deep voice laced with concern. "You've been gone for hours. Where did you go dressed like that?" Chief Obinna smiled faintly. "I went to see what wealth cannot reveal the heart of men." Chinedu frowned. "I don't understand." Chief Obinna told his grandson everything, how he had disguised himself as a poor old man and entered the boutique they own. He described how Stella and the other workers mocked him, how Adaora, despite her struggles, had shown him kindness, even giving him her last money for transport. When he finished, Chinedu's face darkened with anger. "They treated you like that in my own boutique?" Chief Obinna nodded. "But there was a light in the darkness, Adaora. She is different. Such a soul deserves more than we can imagine." Chinedu's jaw tightened. "She was fired?" "Yes, humiliated and tossed out." Without hesitation, Chinedu pressed his intercom. "Ifeanyi, get me the surveillance footage from Prestige Couture. I want every second of what happened today." Within the hour, Ifeanyi, Chinedu's ever-loyal personal assistant, brought a tablet loaded with the security footage. Together, grandfather and grandson watched it from the moment Adaora offered the old man water to when she gave him her money. Chinedu leaned back in his leather chair, his eyes focused. "We need to find her." "I was hoping you'd say that," Chief Obinna said, his eyes twinkling. "She doesn't know it yet, but her kindness will open doors no degree or connection can." Chinedu nodded. "I'll send Ifeanyi out immediately. We'll find her, wherever she is in Lagos." Outside the mansion, the sun was setting over Lagos Island, painting the sky in hues of gold and orange. Somewhere in the noisy streets, Adaora trudged home, her spirit weary, but her soul still rich in kindness. She didn't know that two powerful men were already moving the heavens to change her destiny. By the next morning, Adaora sat quietly in her modest mini-flat in Ajah, staring at the cracked ceiling. She had barely slept. Her siblings would soon ask for food, her mother's medicine was almost finished, and she had no job. Her last hope had crumbled with Stella's bitter words, "You're fired." Suddenly, a knock echoed through the tiny room. Adaora sat up cautiously. She wasn't expecting anyone. She wrapped her old scarf around her hair and shuffled to the door. Standing outside was a sharply dressed man in a crisp gray suit, holding a sleek tablet. His polished shoes and confident aura felt alien to her surroundings. "Good morning. Are you Miss Adaora Nwankwo?" he asked with a respectful bow. "Yes. Who's asking?" she replied, clutching her wrapper tightly. "My name is Ifeanyi, personal assistant to Chinedu Okeke, CEO of Okeke Holdings." Adaora's eyes narrowed. "I think you have the wrong person. I don't know any Chinedu." "You may not know him yet, Ma," Ifeanyi smiled kindly, "but he knows of your kindness. I was sent here to bring you to the Okeke Mansion in Ikoyi. Sir Chinedu wishes to see you personally." Adaora staggered back. "Ikoyi? Okeke Mansion? Why?" Ifeanyi's expression remained calm. "It will be explained when you arrive, but I assure you, you'll be treated with respect and return safely." Adaora's mind spun with suspicion and confusion. Could this be a scam? Or was this connected to the old man from the boutique? Something told her to take the risk, the same intuition that made her help the old man, despite her poverty. After a pause, she nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll come." A black Lexus SUV waited outside, drawing stares from her curious neighbors as Adaora climbed in, her heart pounding. The journey from Ajah to Ikoyi was surreal. She watched the city transform from busy markets to serene palatial streets lined with mansions and luxury cars. When the gates of Okeke Mansion opened, Adora's breath caught. The estate was a different world, towering marble pillars, flowing fountains, a driveway that seemed endless. As the car stopped, Ifeanyi guided her into the mansion. The floors were polished marble, the chandeliers sparkled like stars, and servants moved silently, dressed in crisp uniforms. At the top of the grand staircase stood Chinedu Okeke, tall, broad-shouldered, and striking in his designer kaftan. His presence was commanding, his eyes sharp but curious. Adaora froze. She had seen his face in business magazines, the billionaire that every Lagos socialite dreamed of catching. "Miss Adaora," Chinedu's deep voice echoed warmly, "welcome to my home." Before she could respond, she heard a familiar chuckle. She turned and gasped. There he was, the old man from Prestige Couture, but now dressed in an immaculate white agbada, regal and proud. "Adaora, my daughter," Chief Obinna Okeke beamed. "We meet again." Adaora's knees nearly buckled. "Baba, this is your home?" Chief Obinna laughed heartily. "Oh yes, I am not the beggar they made me out to be." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "I don't understand." Chinedu stepped closer, his gaze gentle. "You showed kindness when no one else did. You gave your last money to my grandfather. That act alone makes you special." Chief Obinna smiled broadly. "I told my grandson this is the kind of woman you should marry." Adora's eyes widened. "Marry? No, I didn't. I wasn't." She looked at Chinedu, expecting mockery, but his face was unreadable. He was simply watching her. For the first time in her life, standing in a billionaire's mansion, among wealth and power, Adaora still carried her dignity. She had no idea that her life from this moment was taking a turn she could never have imagined. Adaora sat uneasily on the velvet couch in the Okeke mansion's living room, hands clasped tightly in her lap. The chandelier above shimmered with golden light, and everything around her reeked of class she had never known. She still couldn't believe she was here, that the old man she offered water to was Chief Obinna Okeke, and that the famous Chinedu Okeke had personally summoned her. Chinedu entered the room wearing a simple yet elegant native attire. His voice was deep and calm. "Miss Adaora, I've watched the boutique footage. You acted with compassion, something rare these days. I need people like you around me." Adaora blinked, unsure of what he meant. "I run a conglomerate. Okeke Holdings Tower on Lagos Island is our headquarters. I need a new secretary, someone trustworthy." Adaora's breath caught. "You want me to be your secretary?" Chinedu nodded. "I'm offering you a job, a fresh start." Chief Obinna, seated nearby, smiled warmly. "Accept it, my child. You deserve better." Tears pricked Adaora's eyes. She remembered the sneers, the insults from Stella and her colleagues. Yet here she was, offered a position not in the boutique, but at the headquarters of the entire empire. She stood, swallowing her nerves. "Thank you, sir. I accept." The next morning, Adaora arrived at Okeke Holdings Tower, a towering glass structure piercing the Lagos skyline. She wore her best Ankara dress, modest but neat. Inside, the reception area buzzed with sharply dressed executives. Every corner gleamed with wealth. But not everyone was welcoming. As Adaora approached the front desk, a tall, stylish woman in a blood-red suit eyed her coldly. Amaka, the senior manager, known for her elegance and sharp tongue, sneered. "You must be the boutique girl," she muttered. "Yes, I'm here as Sir Chinedu's secretary," Adaora replied politely. Another woman whispered loudly, "Boutique assistant turned secretary overnight. She must have done something special to earn that." Laughter rippled through the reception. Adaora felt their stares stab her back, but she kept her head high. She was here to work, not to defend herself. Soon she was led to the top floor of Chinedu's private office. The space was grand but minimalistic, with glass walls offering a panoramic view of Lagos Island. Chinedu sat behind his desk, working on his laptop. He looked up, his gaze steady. "Welcome, Adaora. I hope they didn't bother you downstairs." Adaora smiled faintly. Not more than life has. Chinedu chuckled, impressed by her resilience. Good answer. Days passed, and Adaora quickly proved herself organized, respectful, and efficient. She learned fast, staying late without complaint, yet the whispers in the office grew louder. Did she really help the chairman, or is she seducing Chinedu? Have you seen the way he looks at her sometimes? The worst was Amaka, who despised Adaora for the silent attention she seemed to command from Chinedu. One afternoon, Amaka strutted into Chinedu's office unannounced, flashing her usual fake smile. Sir, I can recommend a more experienced secretary if you wish. Chinedu's eyes darkened. I'm satisfied with Adaora. She stays. Amaka's smile froze. Adaora, sitting at her desk outside, heard everything. She swallowed the lump in her throat. For the first time, someone stood up for her. But she knew deep down the war had only just begun. Amaka would not give up easily, not when she could see that the richest, most eligible man in Lagos was starting to notice the girl from Ajah. In the weeks that followed, Adaora settled into her role as Chinedu Okeke's secretary at Okeke Holdings Tower. She was early every morning, graceful, efficient, and quiet, yet her presence was becoming impossible to ignore. Every day, Chinedu watched her, the way she handled files, the way she smiled softly at the junior staff, the humility she carried despite sitting just outside the office of Nigeria's most powerful CEO. It didn't take long before whispers spread through the skyscraper. She's always with the boss. Maybe that's how she got the job. Amaka, infuriated by Chinedu's indifference to her charms, fueled the gossip. She planted rumors among the staff. Boutique girls climbing up fast. She must be good at things beyond typing. But Chinedu wasn't blind. One afternoon, as he reviewed reports, he glanced up and saw Adaora gently helping a junior staff member who had spilled coffee. Her patience, her kindness, it stirred something unfamiliar within him. Later that evening, as the office grew quiet and the sunset bathed the skyline in gold, Chinedu stepped out of his office. Adaora was still at her desk, typing away. Adaora, his deep voice broke the silence. She looked up startled. Yes, sir? You're working late. I wanted to finish today's reports. He chuckled softly. You're the only person who treats this empire like it belongs to you. She smiled faintly. It feels good to matter somewhere. That sentence struck him deeper than he expected. He studied her, the woman who had nothing but still gave everything. Without thinking, he said, Let me drop you home tonight. Adora's eyes widened. Sir, no, I can find my way. I insist. The ride to Ajah was filled with warm conversation. Chinedu asked about her family, her struggles, her dreams. By the time they reached her tiny mini-flat, something unspoken had formed between them. And no, but far away, trouble was brewing. In London, Lady Nneka Okeke, Chinedu's aristocratic mother, sat in her penthouse reading the Lagos tabloids. CEO Chinedu Okeke, rumored to be involved with his secretary, a nobody from Ajah. Her face darkened. She picked up her phone and dialed. Prepare the jet. I'm flying to Lagos. My son is about to destroy our legacy with a common girl. Meanwhile, at the Okeke mansion, Chief Obinna smiled knowingly when Chinedu returned that night. You're smiling more these days, my boy, the old man teased. Is it the secretary? Chinedu laughed softly. She's different. Chief Obinna nodded. Different is good. I saw it before you did. But even as Chinedu was opening his heart, the city was already watching. The elite whispered, the media speculated, and across the ocean, Lady Nneka was coming determined to confront the girl who was daring to capture her son's heart. What Adaora didn't know was that the path ahead would test every ounce of her dignity, because love in the world of billionaires was never simple, especially when power, pride, and legacy stood in the way. Days later, the grand gates of Okeke Mansion in Ikoyi creaked open to receive an imposing convoy of black SUVs. Lady Nneka Okeke had arrived from London. Dressed in an elegant silk wrapper, diamond earrings shimmering, and eyes sharp like a hawk, her presence was commanding. She didn't need to announce herself. The entire household felt the shift in energy. In the sitting room, Chinedu stood as she descended the stairs with grace and authority. Mother, he greeted respectfully. Chinedu, she responded, her voice crisp. We need to talk about the girl. Chinedu's face hardened. What girl? Don't play coy with me, Lady Neka snapped. That boutique assistant parading as your secretary. Is it true? Are you seeing her? Chinedu took a deep breath. I am. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Lady Neka's eyes flared. Do you understand the scandal you're creating? A nobody from the slums of Ajah. What legacy are you trying to build with her? Just then, Chief Obina Okeke entered, his walking stick tapping steadily on the marble floor. She is a good girl, Neka, he said calmly. She helped me when she thought I was nothing. Lady Neka scoffed. Father, with all due respect, you're too sentimental. This is business, not charity. She is more dignified than the women you've paraded before us, Chief Obina countered. But Lady Neka would not yield. Chinedu, you will end this, or I will. Meanwhile, in the heart of Okeke Holdings Tower, Amaka was scheming. News of Lady Neka's return reached her, and she saw her chance. She contacted Lady Neka's personal assistant, feeding her lies. Adaora is not as innocent as she looks. She's seducing your son to climb the social ladder. I can get you proof. Lady Neka's curiosity piqued. Do it. Amaka's plan was simple. Frame Adaora. She paid an office cleaner to plan an expensive diamond necklace, part of the Okeke family's heirloom, inside Adora's office drawer. Once planted, Amaka tipped off security. During routine checks, the necklace was discovered. Chinedu was called immediately. The moment he saw the necklace, his heart sank. But Adaora looked up at him, her eyes brimming with confusion and hurt. I don't know how that got there, she whispered. Before she could explain, Lady Neka stormed into the office, flanked by security and her assistant. So this is your angel? She spat. A thief! Just like I predicted. No, Ma, I swear I didn't. Adora's voice trembled. But Lady Neka turned to security. Escort her out of this building, and make sure the press doesn't hear of this disgrace. Chinedu stood frozen, torn between rage and pain. He knew Adora's heart, but the evidence was damning. As guards reached for her, Adaora whispered, Sir Chinedu, you know I didn't do this. Their eyes met hers pleading, his conflicted. But before anyone could speak further, Chief Obina, standing at the office entrance, raised his cane. No one touches her, not until we find the truth. The old man's voice shook with authority, halting everyone. But Adaora, humiliated and broken, quietly picked her bag, brushed past them all, and left the tower, her heart shattered. In the corner, Amaka watched with a cold smile. But what none of them knew, Chief Obina had already instructed his private investigator to monitor the staff closely, and soon the hidden rot behind the betrayal would come to light. For days, Adaora stayed hidden in her mini-flat in Ajah, her world collapsing around her. She didn't step out, didn't answer calls. She felt humiliated, wrongly branded a thief in a world she barely understood. She remembered Chinedu's eyes, the conflict, the hesitation. Did he believe I could steal? Meanwhile, in the Okeke mansion, Chief Obina was restless. His private investigator, Mr. James, returned with news. I have the footage, Mr. James said, holding up a flash drive. We traced it to the office CCTV. It wasn't Adaora who took the necklace. Chief Obina's eyes lit up. Then who? Moments later in Chinedu's private office, the footage played. Everyone was present: Chinedu, Lady Neka, and Chief Obina. On the screen, Amaka was seen sneaking into Adaora's office with the cleaner, slipping the necklace into her drawer. The room went silent as the evidence played out in damning clarity. Chinedu stood slowly, his jaw clenched, eyes dark with fury. Lady Neka's face paled. Call Amaka here, Chinedu ordered coldly. Minutes later, Amaka stepped in, swaying confidently until she saw the footage paused on the screen, her crime frozen in time. Her face drained of color. You framed her, Chinedu's voice was ice. Why? Amaka's lips trembled, but Lady Neka spoke first, her voice low. Because I asked for dirt on Adaora, and she delivered. Chinedu turned sharply. You? Mother. Lady Neka straightened, regaining composure. I wanted to protect our family name. Chinedu's voice thundered. By destroying an innocent girl? I should have known. He faced Amaka. You're fired, effective immediately. If not for my grandfather's grace, I'd have you arrested. Amaka burst into tears. I did it for you. I love you. Chinedu's voice was dead cold. You don't know what love is. Amaka was escorted out, her reputation in ruins. Then, Chinedu turned to his mother, disappointment etched on his face. And you, mother, I thought you stood for dignity. Lady Neka's facade cracked. She had never seen her son so livid, so pained. Chinedu grabbed his keys. I'm going to find her. But before he could step out, Chief Obinna raised his hand. Chinedu, wait. He stepped forward, eyes twinkling with wisdom. Let me test the girl to see if her heart is still pure. If she still chooses dignity when she has nothing. Chinedu frowned but trusted his grandfather. All right, but if she rejects us, I'll know it was never love. Chief Obinna smiled knowingly. She won't. That evening, Chief Obinna, dressed in a simple agbada, and his driver arrived at Adaora's home in Ajah. She opened the door cautiously, her face tired and hollow. Baba, what are you doing here? I came to see my daughter, he said softly. You left us, child. Adaora swallowed. I had to. I couldn't fight that world, Baba. It broke me. Chief Obinna stepped closer. And if you're given a second chance, will you rise? Adaora shook her head. I'm not meant for that world. He smiled gently. You're wrong. You're exactly what that world needs. He stretched out a small box. Inside was a gold pin, the Okeke family's symbol of honor. When you're ready to reclaim your dignity, wear this and come to us. Don't let them write your story. Tears welled in her eyes. Thank you. As the old man left, Adaora sat staring at the pin. She thought of her mother, her siblings, her dreams. She couldn't remain in the shadows forever. And deep inside her, a flame rekindled. 2 mornings later, the prestigious Okeke Holdings Tower buzzed with its usual rhythm, executives in tailored suits, assistants juggling calls, and whispers still lingering about the last scandal. But suddenly all heads turned. The elevator doors slid open, and Adaora Nwankwo stepped out, her back straight, her chin raised. She wore a graceful Ankara dress, paired with simple heels, but it was the golden Okeke family pin shining on her chest that caught every eye. It gleamed under the lobby lights, a symbol no one dared question. Gasps filled the air. She's back? But she was fired. Wait, that's the Okeke family crest. Without a word, Adaora walked with quiet strength toward the private elevator that led to the top floor. The security guard who once watched her leave in shame stepped aside, head bowed. At the top floor, Chinedu stood by his glass wall, watching Lagos Island stretch into the distance. His heart pounded when the office door opened, and he turned sharply. There she stood, Adaora, proud, calm, yet her eyes vulnerable. Adaora, he breathed. She raised her hand, showing the pin. Chief Obinna gave me this. He said when I'm ready to reclaim my dignity, I should wear it. Chinedu stepped closer, his voice low. And are you? I am, she whispered, but not because I want your pity. I want to clear my name because I know who I am. Chinedu's gaze softened. I never believed you stole Adaora. Then why didn't you stop them? She asked, her voice cracking. Silence stretched between them. Chinedu's fists clenched. Because I was weak, because for once I didn't want to fight my mother. Adaora's lips trembled. I thought you were different. I am, he whispered, stepping even closer. I've been different since I met you. Their eyes locked, the weight of unsaid emotions between them. Then quietly, Chinedu said, I searched for you, every day, and when I couldn't find you, I realized what I was truly afraid of. What? She asked. Losing you. Silence. Then he said the words that had burned inside him. I love you, Adaora. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she stood firm. Love doesn't cower in the face of lies. Chinedu nodded, stepping even closer. You're right, which is why I'm standing here asking not as Chinedu the CEO, but as a man. Give me a chance to fight for you. She stared into his eyes, searching for deceit, but found none. And slowly, with a soft smile, she said, then start by telling your mother the truth. At that moment, Chief Obinna stepped in, smiling proudly. You both have grown. Now, let's face Nneka together. Later that evening at Okeke Mansion, Lady Nneka sat in her drawing room when Chinedu and Adaora walked in hand. Chief Obinna was beside them. Lady Nneka's eyes narrowed. You brought her here again? Chinedu stood firm. Mother, this is not just about love. This is about dignity. You nearly destroyed her for pride, but she's here because she's stronger than all of us. Lady Nneka's gaze shifted to Adaora. In her calm eyes, Lady Nneka saw strength, the kind of grace she herself had lost in her quest for prestige. Chief Obinna spoke softly. Nneka, if dignity isn't part of our family, then what's the point of our name? For the first time, Lady Nneka lowered her gaze. She didn't apologize, but her silence was enough for now. Chinedu squeezed Adora's hand. He didn't need permission, he had made his choice. As they walked out together into the warm Lagos night, Chinedu whispered, Will you give me a real chance, Adaora? She smiled gently. Only if you promise to never stand in the shadows again. I promise. Their story was just beginning, but this time it was built on truth, strength, and love. Weeks passed, and news of Adaora's return to Okeke Holdings spread across Lagos. But the real shock came one Saturday evening when Chinedu Okeke reserved the entire Skyview Lounge at Eco Hotel and Suites, Victoria Island, for an exclusive event. Top executives, friends, and Lagos elites filled the shimmering glass rooftop overlooking the city skyline. The media whispered about what was to come, their cameras primed. Then Chinedu stepped onto the stage. Dressed in a black tuxedo, his presence commanded attention. With a microphone in hand, his deep voice echoed, Good evening, everyone. You're all gathered here not just for a company event, but for something more personal. Tonight, I want to honor the woman who taught me what dignity and love truly mean. The crowd murmured curiously. Then, from the back, Adaora appeared, dressed in an elegant yet simple, flowing dress, her natural beauty glowing under the soft lights. Chinedu turned toward her, his eyes fixed solely on her. Slowly, he went down on one knee. Gasps rippled across the lounge. Adaora Nwankwo. Chinedu's voice was steady, yet full of emotion. You walked into my world with nothing but your kindness, and you changed everything. Will you marry me? Adora's hands flew to her mouth in shock, her eyes brimming with tears. She remembered Ajah, the boutique, the insults, and now here she stood proposed to by one of Nigeria's most powerful men. She whispered, Yes. The lounge erupted in applause, camera flashes capturing the moment that would headline the next day's tabloids. From boutique to bride, Chinedu Okeke proposes to former assistant Adaora Nwankwo. But Chinedu wasn't done. The following day, he and Adaora walked into Prestige Couture Boutique, the very place where Adaora had been humiliated. Susan, the boutique manager, stood behind the counter. The moment she saw them, she froze, her face draining of color. Adaora stood tall, her engagement ring glittering. Chinedu's voice was cold but dignified. Susan, I came to remind you that you once told Adaora she didn't belong here, that she wasn't good enough. Susan's throat bobbed nervously. Today she is my fiancée, and soon the wife of the Okeke family heir. But beyond titles, she has something money can't buy: dignity. Susan's eyes watered not from happiness, but regret. The staff watched silently, some bowing their heads in shame. Chinedu turned to Adaora. Do you have anything to say to her? Adaora smiled softly, her voice steady. No need. Life has said it for me. With that, they walked out together, heads high, hearts proud. Outside, the press waited. Questions flew, cameras flashed. But Adaora simply smiled, knowing she didn't need validation anymore. Her life had come full circle, from a mocked assistant to the future matriarch of the Okeke dynasty. But most importantly, she had done it on her own terms, carrying her dignity every step of the way. Just when life seemed to settle into joy, a shadow from the past resurfaced. In a cramped apartment on the outskirts of Lagos, Amaka, disgraced and jobless, seethed with rage. She watched Adaora's proposal video replay on her cracked phone screen. "She took everything," Amaka muttered. "Chinedu, the company, the life I deserved." Fueled by hatred, she contacted an underground cyber criminal group. With insider knowledge of Okeke Holdings systems, Amaka devised a plan: hack the company's financial data, leak confidential contracts, and bring the empire crashing down. Weeks later, Okeke Holdings' internal systems were attacked. Servers crashed, financial data was leaked to the press, and shares plummeted. The media exploded. Okeke Holdings in crisis. Financial scandal rocks the empire. In the Okeke mansion, Chinedu held crisis meetings, his eyes heavy with stress. Adaora watched helplessly, feeling guilty that trouble always seemed to follow her. But one evening, Chief Chinedu Okeke called Adaora aside. "Child, this family is yours now too. Stand and fight for it." Adaora remembered her time in the boutique, her survival in Ajah, her resilience. She would not remain a bystander. She reached out to her old friend Emeka, a talented IT expert she once helped during a charity event. Together, they pored over the cyber attacks patterns. Days passed, but finally a breakthrough. They traced the hack back to Amaka. Adaora confronted Chinedu. "We found her, Amaka. She's behind the attack." Chinedu's eyes blazed with fury. "She's finished." Together with law enforcement, Chinedu orchestrated a sting operation. Amaka was caught red-handed trying to siphon company funds into foreign accounts. At the press conference, Chinedu stood before the cameras. "Okeke Holdings stands firm. The attempt to destroy us has failed, thanks to my future wife, Adaora Nwankwo, whose brilliance and courage exposed the perpetrator." The crowd applauded. Reporters scribbled, "CEO's bride saves Okeke Holdings from collapse, the new power couple of Nigeria." Later that night, in their private garden, Chinedu held Adaora close. "You didn't just save the company, Adaora. You saved us." She smiled. "You gave me dignity. I returned it with loyalty." And under the starry sky, they kissed a union built not just on love, but mutual respect and partnership. The air at Okeke Mansion was softer, calmer. The storm had passed, but one wall remained standing, Lady Nneka Okeke. She watched from her private balcony as the world celebrated her son's engagement to Adaora. Deep inside, pride battled pride, but a mother's heart stirred. One afternoon, while Adaora tended the mansion's blossoming garden, Lady Nneka approached, her steps elegant but hesitant. Adaora stood up, wiping her hands, eyes guarded. But Lady Nneka's voice, when it came, was low. "You fought more than I expected, more than I wanted to believe." Adaora said nothing, her silence dignified. Lady Nneka looked away, struggling. Then she whispered, "I misjudged you." Adora's eyes widened slightly. "You're not just marrying my son, you're becoming the face of this family. And for that, I should have supported you." Adaora, with grace, smiled faintly. "Thank you, Ma. That means everything to me." Lady Nneka's shoulders dropped relief, softening her sharp features. She extended her hand. "Welcome to the family, Adaora." They shook hands, sealing a silent truce that would soon blossom into respect. Weeks later, Lagos was set ablaze with anticipation for the wedding of the decade. The Cathedral Church of Christ, Marina, was adorned with gold and ivory, while dignitaries, royalty, and celebrities gathered under the glistening chandeliers. When Adaora stepped out of her bridal Rolls-Royce, cameras flashed wildly. Her gown, a custom Deola Sago masterpiece, shimmered like stardust. A diamond tiara crowned her braided updo, symbolizing not just royalty, but a rise from obscurity to grace. At the altar stood Chinedu, eyes locked on her, his heart pounding. As they exchanged vows, the crowd held its breath. "I promise," Chinedu said, "to honor your dignity, your strength, and your love forever." Adaora, tears glistening, replied, "And I promise to stand by you as your partner, your friend, your equal." The applause was deafening. As they kissed, fireworks burst above the church, lighting up the Lagos skyline. At the grand reception in the Okeke mansion garden, Chief Obinna Okeke called for silence. In his hand was a small, ornate box. "Adaora Nwankwo Okeke," he announced. "From the day you showed me kindness, I knew you were destined for greatness. Today I pass on the Okeke matriarch's heirloom brooch, a symbol of leadership, dignity, and grace." He pinned it on her gown, the sapphires glinting in the soft lights. Adaora's eyes filled with tears. Lady Nneka stepped forward, lifting Adaora's hand. "Lead this family well, my daughter." The guests erupted in cheers, chants of celebration filling the air. Adaora stood no longer. The boutique assistant mocked for her simplicity, but now Adaora Nwankwo Okeke, the beloved matriarch of Nigeria's most powerful dynasty. Chinedu whispered in her ear, "Together, we've built more than love, we've built a legacy." And Adaora smiled, knowing her journey of dignity, resilience, and love had just begun. 10 years later, the Okeke mansion in Ikoyi stood prouder than ever, not just for its grandeur, but for the family within. The estate gardens had transformed into a vibrant foundation center, the Adaora Dignity Foundation, dedicated to empowering young women from disadvantaged backgrounds. Every Saturday, Adaora mentored a new group of girls, teaching them skills, confidence, and integrity. By her side was Chinedu, now chairman of Okeke Holdings Global. His empire spread across Africa and Europe. Yet his greatest pride wasn't his wealth, it was his family. They had 3 children. Obinna Jr., spirited and kind, already showing leadership even at age 9. Zara, the bold, intelligent daughter with her mother's grace. And little Kenechi, always running through the mansion halls with laughter. Chief Obinna Okeke had passed peacefully, but his portrait hung proudly in the mansion's great hall, a reminder of the wisdom and love he left behind. Lady Nneka, now mellowed with age, sat by the garden, often reading to her grandchildren, her pride in Adaora unmistakable. In corporate circles, Adaora was not just the CEO's wife. She was a celebrated philanthropist, an advocate for women's dignity, and a voice of conscience in the business world. One evening, as the family gathered under the twinkling garden lights, Chinedu held Adaora's hand. "When I think of how it started, the boutique, the insults, your kindness to my grandfather," he whispered, "I thank God every day that I didn't let you walk away." Adaora smiled, eyes shimmering with gratitude. "I never needed your wealth, Chinedu. I just needed your heart." Their children laughed nearby, the legacy of dignity continuing in their veins. Under the starry Lagos sky, Adaora whispered to herself, "Good things happen to good people," and she had become living proof.